guys, welcome to today's video. My name's Sarah. I'm the owner of the Rare Plant House, and today we're going to talk about complex hybrid Phalaenopsis orchids versus species orchids. So I'm going to show you 4 orchids that I have in my collection. 2 are species, 2 are hybrids, and they're all Phalaenopsis, and we're going to just cover what they look like when they start to grow flower spikes. These all have flower spikes, one's in flower. And yeah, we're going to take a look at that and just take a look at what they look like and the difference between what a species orchid looks like when it starts to spike and then what a complex hybrid maybe that you could find in like a nursery or like a grocery store looks like when it's starting to grow flower spikes. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Like I said, like and subscribe. It really helps me out in the algorithm, and let's get into it. Okay, so here are the 4 orchids. Now the 2 on the left are species and the 2 on the right are complex hybrids. So these are all from the same nursery. It's not sponsored. It's Orchids by Hauserman in Villa Park, Illinois. Great place to that I've found where I've gotten all of my orchids from. So in my personal collection that I'm sharing with you today. So and mostly on this YouTube channel. So let's start with the species orchids. So this one here in the pink pot is Phalaenopsis venosa, and then this one is a Phalaenopsis Balina. This one, I don't find that it has fragrant flowers. This one smells kind of citrusy. Smells so good, kind of like soap and citrus. And you can see, let me pull these out. You can see they're all growing for the most part similarly. Actually, let me introduce the other 2 orchids and then we'll go over that. So this one is a mini Phalaenopsis. It does have a tag. It's Phalaenopsis Taida Little Pretty crossed with Phalaenopsis Zuma's Pixie. And here are the flowers. This is a mini Phalaenopsis. So it doesn't get much bigger than this. It's just an irregular orchid pot with bark and sphagnum moss. So I grow all of these the exact same way. You can see one of the buds did blast on it. But one thing that's exciting for me is that it has 2 flower spikes this year. It usually only produces, in the past, it's only produced 1. And then that's the other one. So this one we can just, we'll pull it off a little bit later. And then the final one, this is Phalaenopsis Surf Song. And this one definitely needs water. So this is a larger orchid complex hybrid, whereas this is a mini. And this doesn't have the parentage on it. But I wanted to show you the way it grows. It's growing the way I have it potted. It's growing way more upright. Whereas the other 3 are leaning, and leaning, what I mean leaning, like they kind of are growing that way on the horizontal, whereas this one is growing more on the vertical. So if I have a picture, I'll insert it here of this one in flower. But you can see this year, this one only produced 1 flower spike. And they produce flower spikes at, let's take a peek, at the base right there. And then you can see the older flower spikes from the sides right there and right there. So you can see as the plant grows taller, you can see that the flower spikes go up and they come in from the side of the leaves, from the leaf joints. And then same thing on this one. Let me turn this one around. This one has some yellowing leaves. The leaves really on all of these will start to fall off as the plant grows and ages. It's possible here because like this lost a lower leaf recently, and then based on what I've been telling you, like this leaf should be the next one to go, but it's possible that I may have gotten a little bit of water in here, and maybe that's what caused the leaf to yellow, just like on accident. So I'm not really sure why this one is fading, but it is. But the orchid is healthy and it's fine, so I'm not too worried about it. You can see that this one has flowered quite a bit. This one flowers usually twice a year for me. So this one is the old flower spike, and then you can see where the newest one came in on that side, and then that's a really old flower spike, and then you can see from the front, you can just see these where I've cut them, and then there's there's one more right there. So you can see on that, this one is positioned, and it's just the way it happens to be growing is it's growing horizontally. But usually you'll see these two complex hybrids, you'll see them growing more like this one, usually more upright. So, but how they actually grow in nature, the species are, they tend to grow more like this. Might be easier to show you. More on a vertical where the plant is not growing upright, on a horizontal where the plant grows more down this way. So these, the species tend to have very, very glossy leaves. Like there's dust on the leaf, which I'm wiping off right now, but species orchids usually, not all, but they usually tend to have these really super glossy leaves. So that's the venosa, and then that's the Phalaenopsis Balina. So you can really see how beautiful that is, whereas these, and you'll see that in grocery store orchids too, there's just not a lot of, these have kind of a glossy sheen, but they tend to be not as glossy as, say, these. And then the way the flower spikes grow is similar, but the way the flowers come up, the way they flower, it looks different. So these are potted in the same, they're all potted in the same mixture of bark and sphagnum moss. I just watered that, so that's why there's a little bit of water. And then for this, you can see the spikes tend to come in more horizontal, whereas these spikes tend to come in more vertical, right? So these grow up, and then these tend to produce a flower spike more on the horizontal, and this has a couple different ones. There's a bud. Let's see, that's a bud, and then don't want to disturb it, but that's a new bud. And it's funny too because this just had a bud that fell off, that it was just in flower. So I have a feeling with this one it'll continue to flower this throughout the season, whereas this one grows, this mini phal grows a new flower spike in usually the spring and the fall. So then we have flowers for summer and winter. And then this one, I'm pretty sure this one flowers just in the summer. So it'll start to develop a flower spike. Usually develops two. I'm not sure why it didn't develop more than that this year, but it usually develops two, one on each side, but clearly it didn't. So the bloom show probably won't be as amazing this year. It does have a lot of branches though, which is interesting. Usually it's just one spike, so maybe that's what happened. It's putting its energy into secondary spikes instead of two main flower spikes. So we'll have the offshoots, and then you've got the main spike. So this one, the venosa, you can see has flowered quite a bit. This is a spike that's dried out all those are old flower spikes that have dried out. That's an aerial root. All of these grow, as you can see. That's what these are. They're aerial roots growing just in the air, and then if they grow in the potting medium as well. So you have both aerial roots and roots that are in the pot. You can stake this if you want, or you can just leave it kind of hanging. You can see like the really glossy leaves, and then all the new leaf development will come from here or here, and then, you know, the top here and there. So since these are all focusing on flowering right now, they won't grow vegetatively. Once I cut the flower spike, then new leaves will start to grow, but the plant is focusing on flowers right now. So, and I admit I want to enjoy the flowers, because that's part of the reason I grow orchids, is because of the beautiful flowers. The plants themselves are pretty, but it's really the flower show that I look forward to with growing orchids. So yeah, so those are the complex hybrids, and then that's how the two species grow. So, and how their flower spikes develop. This one actually had, I think it was like 3 flower spikes developing at the same time, which was a little weird. And these usually only produce, one thing that's different is the species usually only produce like 1 or 2 flowers. They aren't known for or bred for these like multiple flower spikes and then like a huge bloom show, right? Like this has a big cluster of flowers, and hopefully we'll get a little nice cluster of flowers there. This, honestly, this one will have 1 flower, and it's fragrant and it's beautiful, but it's just 1 flower. And same with this one. This will put out a really long flower spike, but it usually only develops, even though there's a bud for it, it usually only develops 1 spike or 1 flower. So we'll see how that goes. So if it produces just 1 flower, I'll put that up if I have it. Same with the Balina and the Phalaenopsis Surf Song, and then this one you can see the flowers on that. So let me turn you around. So the care for these is the exact same. The potting setup is a little bit different. It was just a preference. This is in one of those orchid top pots from, you can get them on Amazon or repotme.com. It was just a pot that I happened to have laying around, and I wanted to try it. The rest of these are all potted in like an orchid pot with the slits in the sides from Repot Me, and then they have like just exterior containers to catch the water and also to just make it look aesthetically pleasing to the eye. So yeah, that's all I really wanted to say. I'll keep you guys updated probably on TikTok or Instagram when these do flower. So that'll be exciting. Or I might make another video on when these do open up, like on each individual one. That way you can see. So I hope that was fun for you guys to see the difference between the species versus the complex hybrids. And again, these were all purchased by Hauserman. You can't usually, I've never seen species orchids, Phalaenopsis orchids, in grocery stores. You're more likely to see these, they probably won't have a tag, but more these commercial hybrids or complex hybrids that you'll find if you go to like a grocery store or like a home and garden center. You're more likely to find something like these, and the bloom show looks more like that versus the species you can just find in orchid nurseries, and usually has like 1 or 2 flowers at a time. So just the blooming differences. The care for these is I treat them all the same. I water and fertilize them on the same schedule. They're all in the same room, all actually on the same grow shelf, same lighting conditions. So I brought them out here for display purposes, but they all sit on the same shelf. They all get the same amount of light, same amount of care. And yeah, so that's all I have to say, excuse me, about that. But I hope that was helpful. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you get notified every time I upload a new video. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!